Hello and welcome back to Life and Love Post-COVID. I'm your host, Ari Kardosh, and I am so thrilled that I get to have the amazing Pete Longworth here. Pete and I met in an awesome business incubator that we were both invited into, and it changed so much for both of us around how we get to serve the world. And so when I learned more about Pete's passions and what he's doing, I was like, holy cow, Pete, please come hang out with me and share your wisdom and magic and creativity with this audience. So Pete, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ari. What a treat to be here, my dear.
Would you just introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about you.
A little bit about me. Well, for many years, I spent a lot of time introducing people to themselves. And I did that through the medium of photography. And I took great pleasure in having really sweet, intimate experiences with people and inviting them into places inside of themselves that a lot of people, a lot of the time, don't touch. And it became a really interesting way to navigate the world and to learn a lot more about it and the people in it, because I think we're so often so busy running around with outer perceptions of ourselves. And, you know, there's lots of modalities that can bring us closer to ourselves. And I just happen to use this vehicle of photography for doing that. And so for many years pre-COVID, I was fortunate enough to do that as a profession. A little different these days. It's evolved, but that's kind of the essence of where it came from.
Amazing. And now what are you passionate about? What are you doing these days?
Well, now I have, I've had the tremendous opportunity to reinvent myself in a professional sense. And now I have the privilege of running a program called Create Content That Matters. And before COVID, one of the people that I was working with was a gentleman named Simon Sinek, and I was doing all the content creation for him. He started with Y team, doing a lot of work with speakers and authors, and really giving amplification to the messages that they were bringing and holding, and ultimately fishing for people. And now post COVID, I've started helping people fish for themselves. And so it's this program that it's really. I learned, Ari, that a lot of people, you don't need to be on a stage to have something meaningful to say.
Yeah.
And while I spent a lot of time in my career helping people on stages say something really meaningful, what really hit me and what the real juice of what's available to us now is we have all of these platforms. We have all of these channels upon which, like, we can instantly put a message out to every corner of the world. Like the ability that we have right now is so unprecedented to connect. And I know a lot of people get caught in the swirl and the social media of this and damn that company and Mark Zuckerberg this and all. And it's like, guys, like, there's so much opportunity like never before to have your most meaningful messages reach people. And so this program is, well, let's be honest, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise out there now that everybody has the tools. And so I help people stand out. You know, I help people feel, for those who have something really meaningful to say, and you're sitting there, you might have this experience of like, I don't feel authentic. You know, it's like, I have this really good idea, but by the time I go through the process of like sitting down to do it, to write it, to like turn the camera on, how am I going to light it? How is it going to be? Where am I going to put it? How am I going to, and anyway, by the time you get to the end of it, you've lost that buzz for it all. And you get this sense things have diluted. And so we just, the program just kind of does that. It just kind of takes that space and it truncates it. So your most authentic expression is what actually reaches people. And I really think that in doing that, we really have a powerful opportunity to make a shift, and locally. And I believe that has the opportunity to ripple out on a much larger scale. So that's kind of the dance that we're doing now. And it's been a big journey.
Yeah.
If I'm really honest, because I learned that I learned how much of my identity and my ego was wrapped around what I was doing. You know, I worked for a very famous person. I was in airports every week, photograph the Obamas. Like COVID really stripped that away.
Mm.
You know, this idea, where am I now that I'm not doing these things and I can't do these things, and I got a really humbling opportunity to see things a little differently. And I think that's, however uncomfortable, that was a real gift. That was a real gift for me to get sat still. And
Yeah.
yeah.
COVID did some really interesting things
I learned
in
a lot.
lives.
Truly, truly, it completely transformed. And once I stopped complaining about it and started moving forward and realizing the opportunities, because I really, I discovered that I liked writing poetry. Didn't know that. And one of my favorite pieces, yeah, I was like, who knew? Was this idea, and one of them was like, in the corners of every day live both problems and poetry, and whichever you seek, true. You know, like when I stopped like being so consumed by the problems, I really, however uncomfortable, I'm super grateful for that.
That's beautiful. We're having some connection stuff going on, Pete, just so you know.
Okay.
I think we're going to be okay, but if there's anything you need to adjust on your end, I'm taking care of it on my end too.
Okay.
Oh, that's beautiful. It reminds me this morning, I was having a breakfast conversation with my 6-year-old, and he goes, Mom, I'm a really good photographer and poet. I was like, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. And now I continue to talk with you, my other photographer and poet. But it's so much of this tapping into what are we passionate about, or discovering our new passions, and how do we bring that out into the world. I think it's been a big piece of what COVID has been for people. It doesn't have to mean that you are launching a new business. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You might just have something you want to share into the world and be heard and received, not as noise, but to have your passion, whatever this message is, heard. And yeah. Tell us a little more about what you've seen happen, like as you've been leading this journey for others or in your own experience. How do people get started in really creating content that matters?
Okay. Well, we have to stop complaining. And I really, cup half full kind of idea, or again, are you focused on the problems, or are you focused on the poetry? It's like, you really, like, while ever we're in some scarcity survival mode or thinking things are against us, that expression that life is working against us, or that we're some victim to kind of circumstance, it's a very challenging place to be creative and move forward. And so the first thing is to really sit down and make a list of all the things you may be stoked about, or have a practice of an evening. You heard of rosebud thorn?
Yes.
It's like, and implementing these things, like, what are the simple daily practices or rituals that actually anchor you back into a sense of gratitude? Is it taking a moment before you eat your meal just to give a little bit of a blessing, or give a thought about how that food even arrived to your plate?
Yeah.
And when it blows my mind, sometimes I sit and I ponder, I'm like, my father was a farmer, and then you think about, the journey. And my father's on here, by the way.
Hi, Dad.
And and I think about the journey of what happens, like, just the journey of food to arrive to your table, like what goes on, and like, it's exquisite. So my first step is like, just start tuning into a little bit more of the poetry, and a little less energy on the problems, because it really is true, like, where you focus your energy is where your attention goes. And so that would be my first step. And the thing that if I was to leave one nugget, it's just show up. It's like, we have so much access to so many things. I mean, how many people out there have done programs they've never finished? started with all the great gusto and never got to the end of it, and like guilty as charged for sure. But it's like we have so many opportunities, but are we showing up for them fully? You know, and I feel, at least for me, I have this relationship with life that if I'm not showing up fully, I'm not gonna receive fully. And so I really invite people to, I invite myself. Let's just start here, and then if anybody wants to,
I like that. I like that.
I'm not gonna tell anybody to do anything. I'm gonna keep showing up for myself fully, and from that place, because anytime I find myself like complaining about something, I'm like, did I really show up fully inside of that? Like, did I give myself every opportunity? And if I did, I feel good about the fact that I did that. And if I didn't, I kind of know that maybe I could have done more. And so getting into that space, and I'll sprinkle this in, and I'm out this again because I'm just taking this opportunity to speak into the stuff that I've just learned, you know, and the stuff that's alive for me. So if this is useful for anyone else, but I mean, how much time have I spent externalizing in the quest for inner peace?
Yeah.
It's like, how much time do I spend going outside of myself in an attempt to obtain a feeling inside of myself? And if you're doing that, my experience is that it doesn't work. And so when I parlay that into the program or into this endeavor of creating content that matters, it's like so often where people trip up is this idea of trying to create content based on what they think other people are going to feel. Or like, now I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm creating this content based on the perception of how I think you might perceive this. Or worse still, like, oh, let me try to appease an algorithm. And if you were doing that, you're on a one-way street to Struggleville. And so this idea of when we release the need to try to please or impress, and we actually, take a moment and start from the inside and come out. And this is what happens when I'm with going back to the start of the photo shoots. It's giving a lot of people like try to put on a front or masquerade a posture around, who they want to be perceived as. And I invite people, this is where introducing people to themselves comes from, is like, don't try to like go out here for your comfort. If you're feeling any level of discomfort, my invitation is to just pause and to take a breath and to come from the inside out. And I watched it. I've seen this area so like literally thousands of times with subjects. When I just give them permission to take a breath and come from the inside out, you can literally, you watch the micro adjustments of people, like the shoulders drop, the face relaxes, and this moment of like, and then that's the moment when the shutter goes, like that's it. And so it's don't look outside, it's an inside job. There we go.
It's an inside job.
Round it out there. Yeah.
I love it. And that permission to pause and breathe. I mean, that is, I think, one of the most magical life lessons for any moment, right? It's like, it's something that I do with all my clients, like when they're feeling stressed in conflict in their relationship, right? It's like, you don't have to keep pushing whatever it is that you think you're pushing for. Like, you don't have to keep forcing this thing. Like, you have permission right now to just pause, breathe, come back into yourself, feel whatever you're feeling, and all your feelings are valid. And then see what you want to do from that place of groundedness and that realness. And I even feel it like when I'm going back to content, I was just thinking about how there's so many times when I'm like, it's not fun to think I have to make a recording for Instagram or Facebook or whatever. It's like, that's not how I want to serve the world. And what comes out is crap almost every time when that's the mindset, right? It's like, if I feel something in me moving, it's leaning into that, like, oh, I have that. There's something there. There's something that just needs to come out, and trusting that and not going into overanalyzing and just saying, okay, I'm going to just turn on my camera and see what happens when I just speak my truth from an authentic place. And when I can do that, that's when people will respond, right? It's very different than the I have everything together and I pre-wrote my script and all right, which gets like 0 views, or like half the view, right? It's like, nope, not interested. It's not compelling. It's not compelling to not feel the human on the other side. And if you are so disconnected from yourself, how is anybody going to get to connect with you if you're not connected to yourself?
It's painful to me. I witness, like, to sit down and have a conversation with you. It's like, you are profound. The lessons you have, the way you conduct yourself, the connectivity to all that you know and you hold. And then it's like, and then I will witness people who have those level of codes kind of feel like this when they're trying to deliver it. And it's like, oh, like, I really want people to have these like powerful experience, like just bring yourself forward in an authentic way. But when we start layering, we start layering all these things, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, where is she? It's in there. Something, I have to work so hard to get to the message.
Yeah.
And we bend ourselves into a pretzel.
Yeah.
And I really like what happens. And it's the inner critic, right?
It's the inner critic. So much the inner
So,
critic. What do you do with that inner critic?
You make them a cup of tea. You sit down with them. You make fucking friends.
Yes, it's okay.
Sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom.
It's otherwise we make it bigger. We make it larger, and it's like, can you find the layers underneath that? Like, what is the inner critic trying to protect?
Yeah.
Right. Because while ever the inner critic is some demonic, fearful creature, it's not gonna be fun. But it's like, hey. Like, how has that inner critic served you?
Yeah.
Like, in some levels, I can guarantee you, having worked with some of the brightest brains and biggest brands on the planet, I can guarantee you that the inner critic and the robustness of that inner critic is one of the largest reasons for their success. So can we make friends with that part of ourselves? Be like, thank you, and make a choice, make an active choice with this. Okay, I understand. Yeah, I'd like to refine this. I'd like this to be better. But, like the deeper, truer part of me really wants to make sure that this goes out and I give people a chance to connect with it, because otherwise I'm getting in my own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's my advice on that, is like, yes, and not like this, but okay, I hear this, I understand. Here's another keyword: iteration. In your content creation, in your life, if we can welcome in iteration, the idea of iteration, that it's not everything here now exactly, but what I do today, how I show up, and what I bring forward is an iteration of my journey and where I'm going. And from that place, we can, okay, yes, this is a V2. And I'm going to do a V3 of my website copy. And I'm going to do a V5 of my, it's like, and just take it as an iteration, and love ourselves through that, rather than become our own worst enemy.
Yes.
It's too short, Eri, like, we spend so much time, like, and here's the funny thing, it's like, no one else does that to us. We're the only person, like, we're this amazing vessel, right? We are on this huge playground, green and blue playground. We have like gravity keep us grounded. We got water to dance in. It's like the two things we have to do to survive: eat, and I know how much you love to eat.
I love to eat. I love to eat.
And make love. Like, these are the two things we actually have to do to survive on this planet, this playground. Like, the game is stacked in our favor. Like, we have to do that to survive. Two of the most pleasurable, sensuous things possible as a human experience, and we have to do it to survive. What a treat.
What a treat.
What a treat. It's like, and then while in the middle of this most amazing game, how much time, and I'm going to ask everyone, how much time do you spend like chewing yourself up from the inside out? No one else is doing that. And everybody knows if I spoke to you the way I speak to myself, we wouldn't be hanging out.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
It's so crazy.
It's so crazy.
And I don't think people understand how much everyone is walking around doing that. Right? It's like I think our experience is so unique, and we're alone in this like inner suffering, like this torture. It's all up here, and we don't understand that this other person across from us, they have their own torturous thoughts that they struggle with, and they're equally human. And it's not about you having to be a different person completely at all. It's more about, can you get to know yourself? Can you come into that quiet place? Can you spend time making a cup of tea with your inner critic and get to hear the messages that are there for you and lean into it? Yeah, it's uncomfortable. But what happens when I hear the message, receive it, and can then put it out, like still take that next step? And this goes for people who also are not like officially like big content creators. Maybe you just have something you're passionate about that you've been thinking about, and you're like, I just want to tell the world, but how do I turn on my camera and do a Facebook Live about the fact that I really want to talk about this subject, whatever that subject is, whatever. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter. If you're passionate about it, can you lean into the discomfort of your own self and really step into that?
Yeah. It's, can we relearn love?
Can we relearn love?
And it's like, how do we set ourselves up so that we can remove the stress and this actually gets to be fun and enjoyable? Yeah. How do we do that? And it's because it doesn't have to be this hard. We don't have to roll through life so like against ourselves.
Yeah. Pete, is there anything else you want to share that that may be helpful for those tuning in?
How much time do we have?
Well, we've got about 5 minutes officially, but you do what you need to do.
Okay. I'd like to invite people into maybe just a little visual meditation, a little practice that I use quite a lot.
Perfect.
And yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite people to take a moment to get grounded, to maybe close your eyes. And we're just going to go on a little journey. And just taking a moment to even just start with a simple thing, knowing that in just a few moments, you're going to open your eyes and you're going to be able to see. And not everybody has that luxury. There are so many people who don't have that luxury. So can you drop into the beautiful fact that you have the gift of sight? Talking about the playground and the pieces that we have. These 5 senses. These gifts, these ways to interact with the world, to romance with life. And if you're really busy right now and you're feeling like, oh, it's like the perfect time to just expand the lungs with your next breath and to feel the dance of your lungs expanding to the back of your rib cage. To feel the thing that is most real, you. To release yourself, even if just for a moment, from all the mental entanglement, the argy-bargy with the self-critic, the warrior consumed with the to-do list. the parts of you that externalize the internal journey. The part of you that doesn't fully show up for yourself. Maybe you're not really present with loved ones. Maybe you don't quite eat as well as you know you could. Maybe you're a little lazy to exercise. Maybe sometimes you're a little mean or a little short-tempered. You project that out at others rather than take responsibility for the state that you're in to begin with. Maybe you do a really good job of finding the problems in the corners of your everyday. So what we're going to do right now is when we open our eyes, we're going to look for the poetry. We're going to take a little practice in seeking poetry. So I'm going to invite you right now to open your eyes. I'm going to invite you to look around the room, probably a place that you know really well. And as you look around this room, I'm going to invite you to look for shapes. I want you to look around the room, and I don't want you to see anything else, but just look for the shapes. Maybe there's the circles of the lights above you. Maybe there's the rectangles of the windows. Maybe there's rectangles inside of rectangles. Look for the shapes of the keys on your keyboard. Circles, squares, triangles, and start to see how many shapes pop out at you. Shapes in shapes, shapes that make up other shapes. Witness this room come apart. Take this now and look, switch your focus now from shapes to texture. Okay, look around the room for texture. Maybe the texture of the table. And you know the difference of the texture of the table to the texture of the laptop, to the texture of the spoon. You know, and you can move about to see textures. The texture of the wall, texture of the curtains, texture of the windows. Everything right in front of you has a different texture to it. The texture of the back of your hand versus the front of your hand. You know, and you can like start to see this, even inside of your hand, this playground of texture. And maybe as you like start to collapse your hand in, you'll start to see a dance between the light and shade. Right? And as you move your hand, you might start to see, you know, you can twist it over and you'll start to see that literally in the palm of your hand, you can have this whole dance of light and shadow. Like this sweet little moment, romancing with life that exists in the palm of your hand in any moment. And take like this dance now, this light and this shade, and look around again. And have a look for this difference between light and shade, because we talk a lot about finding the light, being the light, and doing these pieces, but it's the interaction between the light and shadow, right? The shadows are the things that actually give form. So this is like the inner critic and these things. It's like these pieces give form. These define our character. Same way that the shadows define the form of everything that's around you. So look for that dance between the light and the shadow. And you might notice as you do that now, look for color. Just look around wherever you are. You might be in your car, like look for color. It might be like on your bookshelf. Is there like a bright red title of a book? Is it a pencil across the room? Is it a teacup? Look for color. Look at the wall, team, right? So now the wall, your wall might be one color, right? It's white, but is it really? When you look at it, for one side of the wall to the other? Is it white, or is this an endless cascade of like a progressive hue? I mean, even this, like, look at this wall behind me is one color, yeah, but look at it. It's like the whole thing shifts with light and shadow. The way the light and shadow dances creates a different hue. And yet we're like, oh, it's it's an off yellow wall. It's like, it's not. There's like so much there. Again, your hands, your skin, look how much color's in the palm of your hand. And so as we do these things, as we like entrain ourselves to see differently, and for those of you who like struggle with that inside job, great, I get it. Start externally here and see it differently, and start to realize that there's poetry everywhere, and that we can start to relearn how we see. We can start to relearn how we love, and we can use this process. And it's just doing these practices, because if you're sitting down and you're surrounding yourself with media and madness and mean people, well, there's a consequence to that. But if you choose to see the poetry, if you do these little practices, if you take a moment to pause, take a breath, and feel your lungs and your ribs dance, if you look around, have a little visual meditation for light, for shadow, for color, for shapes, for texture, you might just start to find that there's a hell of a lot more beauty around you than you ever gave yourself credit for. And if you're in lockdown, if you were stuck anywhere, these tools, like, because so often we're like, oh, let's be over there. Great. And then you get over there and you have no skill set to actually enjoy being there. So if you feel stuck, if you feel trapped, my invitation is to, like, great, like, find the poetry, because it's there.
Wow. Wow. I feel like maybe you were a preacher in a previous life. That was beautiful. Oh, thank you. I my eyes feel so different after that too. It's like, wow, that was a great exercise. I want to do that again later.
And please do, it's like, use it, enjoy. Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much. What a treat it is to come here and hang with you, Ari. I've been so charmed by getting to know you through the dance that we've had. And I really love who you are. I love what you do. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and be connected, and to connect with your audience and whoever is smart enough to follow your yellow brick road, because you're really a profound character doing beautiful work on this planet. And I, for one, want to take this moment to say thank you.
Oh, thank you, Pete. Thank you so much. Yeah. I have very similar feelings about you. So it's beautiful. Okay. Receiving all the love. Thank you so much for everything you shared today. It was really, really, really beautiful. Some of my big takeaways that I wrote down, I love taking notes, but just that it's time to stop complaining and really focus not on the problems, but on the poetry. And it's there. You just got to look for it. And you have total permission to just show up. You can pause, you can breathe. And when you take that journey from the inside out, that's when things become magic and become alive. And it's okay to welcome iteration. Our journey is just a whole bunch of iterations, and it's really awesome.
Right.
And we all have this ability to relearn how we see and relearn how we love. So, wow. Thank you so much for this wisdom. Love having you here. All right, darling. How can people learn more about what you do and participate more in your creative awesomeness?
For sure. PeteLongworth.com.
Amazing. I will share that.
Yeah, and you can find me on Instagram. We have a lot of fun over there. And for anyone who is curious to go deeper, who feels like they have some code, they have a really meaningful message, and they kind of maybe get a little tripped up, and they just would love to feel confident and authentic, bringing themselves forward, then this program is the absolute swan song of what I have to offer. And it would be my absolute privilege to jump on a call and have a conversation with anybody who feels remotely interested or curious about this dance.
Love it. Thank you so much, Pete. I will post your links. And for anybody who's tuning in to the recording, you are welcome to put comments, questions right in this chat area, and I can pull Pete in, have him answer questions. You can also reach out to him directly. So Pete, thank you so much for being here. Pete's mom and dad, thank you for being here. Your son is amazing. And I look forward to connecting more soon. Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank
Bye.
you. See you.